Uriah McClain. He helps coach football over at Cedar Creek and kind of just an all-around guru. What's up, Uriah?
Hi, how are you? Good morning. Nice to talk to you, Dave.
Is that a good characterization of you, all-around guru?
No, I've been working with student athletes for a little while now, so yeah, fair assumption.
Are you still doing the what was it you were doing, like helping kids out with prepping for college, that kind of thing?
I am. Just started a new business, Flow Academics, so it's just an extension of that, focusing more on the SAT prep side of it and making sure that they get the mental toughness in there and all of that.
Nice. You got a website or anything set up?
The website is literally going to be dropping this weekend, so it's flowacademics.com, and so it should be coming soon.
Is it Flow with a W or just FLO?
FLOW academics.com.
Nice. Dropping it this week, man. We're on top of things around here.
You are. I was actually happy to hear from you.
Nice, man. Yeah, there's a couple topics that I thought you'd be good to help fill in some of the gaps here on today's show. One of them, real quick, we just got off the phone with Doc Zimmerman over at the rugby club, Jersey Shore Sharks, and he was saying how Cedar Creek's such a big supporter of what those guys are doing and how it translates into high school football. Have you seen the results of that? I mean, are your guys becoming better tacklers and more conditioned?
Absolutely. Cedar Creek prides itself on defense, and I think that a lot of that comes from the training and the techniques that we use there. So, absolutely.
Are you surprised that more high school coaches haven't really gotten on board with the rugby aspect of tackling? I mean, like Doc Zim said, this is something that the Seahawks have implemented, some NFL teams, and you saw the guy on the Patriots actually played in the Olympics for rugby. So it's becoming a pretty popular sport. I'm a little surprised that the high school coaches around here haven't really even tried to research a little bit and kind of find out what it could do to help them.
Sure. I think it falls into the category of, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Football coaches, you know how they are. A lot of them are old school. They've had success doing it a certain way. So when you tell them that there's a different way, it's not that they don't believe you, but it's just a lack of understanding or perhaps just being reluctant to change things that have worked for so long. So, it is hard to get kids to kind of buy into it as well because they've been doing it one way for so long. So it's a catch-22 when it comes to that. So if somebody comes in with new information, something that's good and has been proven to be successful. However, there's a lot of resistance because you don't have the personnel that might not be able to coach it or understand it.
I think maybe some of the fear factor is the injuries, but really statistically, there's not that many injuries in rugby.
No, and I think that it's a big topic, of course, with CTE and a lot of the traumatic brain injuries that athletes are suffering. It's something that's very real. Parents are very concerned about it. I think that at the youth level, you see less and less people participating because of that fear, and I think it's warranted. However, I think that different programs have shown that if you are proactive in your training and development of athletes, you can avoid a lot of those injuries. Take, for instance, the Ivy League, who use no helmets during the week. They're using different equipment to avoid those traumatic injuries, and they're having a lot of success. So it can be done, and I think that there's a lot of good organizations out there that are promoting that, and I think that it's just a matter of educating yourself on how to best protect your athletes because, again, who wants athletes getting hurt? Nobody. And that's kind of the thing. So this is just a tool that, coaches should really look into, and I highly recommend it.
Speaking of the Ivy League, great setup for a segue there. We had on a couple of Ivy Leaguers earlier in the show, Pat Darcy and CJ Lafragola. Pat's over at Princeton University, CJ at Brown. They're a couple of wrestlers. And I asked CJ, if he could go back in time to when he was 16, 17 years old, what kind of advice would he have for that age kid? And he really said when you're trying to pick out a college, go for what you're most comfortable with. Maybe it might not be the biggest name or whatever, or the what you might have envisioned when you were 14, but now that you're 16, 17, find that place where you feel the most comfortable because you're going to be there for 4 years in theory. So I thought that was some great advice.
Oh, absolutely. I know CJ very well. He's one of my favorite players that I've ever watched. He's just a tremendous athlete and mentally tough as they come. That that understanding of going to a place that suits you is so perfect. It's really hard to get kids to see past those major Division I schools because that's all they see on TV day in and day out. They're reported on constantly, and now with Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat, that's all you see are those big programs. But there's so many smaller schools out there that can offer the same type of experience. They just don't offer the same type of exposure. The level of competition is always high. There's very good coaching going on there. You can just look at some of the coaches that have come up through the NFL ranks that have started at smaller schools. It's football is football, and no matter where you go, and there's great college minds and there's great high school minds that transitions well to any level. So when you get a good coach and a good program, you can see how they can develop you in the same way that any major Division I program would. So it's just a matter of educating yourself and seeing more games and getting out there to see where you can kind of fit. And, for CJ, finding Brown was a perfect fit for him. And look at him now having the success on the wrestling mat is tremendous.
And earlier in the show, we had on Kevin Zuloff, who's the Stockton men's lacrosse coach, and he was saying the same thing, like, yeah, you might want to go to Rutgers or Maryland or something like that with the big name, but you can have just as great a career at Stockton, be close to home. I mean, there's a lot of advantages to a Division III school. I mean, everybody wants to go Division I, and it's something you dream about when you're 13, 14 years old, but there's so many more options as you get older and you realize the competition out there. Maybe you're a better fit at Division III than you might be, say you want to go to Rutgers and you might sit on the bench for 3 years because there's so much talent up there, and maybe you can go to a place like Stockton or Rowan and get in earlier and still enjoy the whole college experience.
Absolutely. When you have a student athlete that has been a star probably, for the majority of their life, and they go to a major university, for the first time, they're sitting the bench. They're not having the experience that they thought on top of the workload that they have to deal with. And so how does that athlete handle, that type of setback in their mind when in reality everybody's wishing to be them, but they're wishing to be somewhere else because in their, for them, they just want to play. They don't care. You get a student athlete or a former athlete out on a pickup game and see how they perform. They just want to compete. That's all they know. So when they don't have that opportunity and they're sitting the bench, that's why you see so many high-level athletes transferring to different schools for better fits, to your point earlier. It's just something that is ingrained in them. If you're a competitor, you want to go out there and do what you do what you've been trained to do. So when that's taken away from you, or you have to work harder than you ever had to get the dream that you said you wanted, is really kind of a shock to them. So I really encourage athletes to go to places where they, like you said, are a good fit for them and a place that they're going to have an opportunity to showcase their talents and skills. And it might not be at the school that they thought.
Talk with Uriah McClain. He's a assistant coach over at Cedar Creek for the football program, also helps kids with the process of getting into college. Uriah, one thing I really wanted to get in with you this morning was one of your guys, Ibn Miller, who has become sort of locally and nationally famous here in the last week or so for breaking up that potential street fight in Atlantic City. That video went viral. I mean, LeBron James was commenting on it on Twitter. I know he's kind of a reserved, humble, shy guy, but what has this done for the Atlantic City community and kind of sparked a little bit of interest? Say, hey, let's get involved more with these kids' lives and get them away from getting into trouble and steer them more towards better things.
Yeah, a good friend and I, we were talking about the incident itself, and the first thing was that when I saw the video, I clicked on it just like everybody else because it's one of those videos that really sets up like so many of these fights that you see on social media. So when I saw how it played out, it really was an incredible clip. Knowing Ibn for years now, it really just wasn't a shock that he did that, but the bigger surprise was how those students responded, because even when he was kind of confronting that crowd, I've seen that go sideways where the individual trying to be the Good Samaritan ends up getting harmed. And the thing is that from his perspective, you could see it where the kids, he knew those kids. He's
right.
From that community. And that was a big part of that, which is when you have members of the community that have relationships with these students, you see how they respond. They weren't disrespectful to him. They didn't curse at him. They didn't tell him to shut up or any of that. And what the response it was so overwhelmingly positive, and I think that that's what people kind of really took away from that, which is here's a guy from there, he knows these kids' families, and he's stopping it because he doesn't want to see, two kids make a huge mistake. And I think it was really kind of a special moment for him, and I was very happy for him because a kid like him, I mean, with the background that he has, this kind of success story in terms of, yes, it was just one moment, but I know that he wants this to continue in terms of just being an inspiration to show others that they can stop it as well, but not necessarily adults, but the youth. And that's something that they need to see. They need better examples in the community. And my hope is that, people will contribute to Atlantic City and to help, further and develop a program perhaps that will help, these kids understand how to deal with conflict and how to, peacefully resolve things. And that was the most impressive part about it, because in that video, you didn't hear Ibn curse not one time. He wasn't disrespectful to them. He treated them with respect, and they gave it back to him, and that was the most impressive part to me.
I thought the best thing he said in that video was, hey, I know your parents. I know what they went through to give you what you got. Show them the respect by not acting a fool. And hopefully that resonated with those kids. I mean, sometimes they take for granted that, they don't know their parents' backstory the whole way, how some of their parents maybe had to come up from bad situations and get themselves in a better situation to hopefully give their kids a better life. And here these kids are taking advantage of that.
Absolutely. I think that when we look back and we sit back and think about it, a lot of times we don't realize that people are going through the same things that we're going through. They're just as angry as we are, just as hurt as we are. And the problem is that we don't communicate. And I think that while social media gives us an opportunity to link up with people, what we have is a shortage of conversations in person. So when you don't really know somebody, when you just know the best sides of them that we present online, you don't really get to understand individuals. But if you sit down and you talk to one another and you realize, hey, listen, I don't want to fight either. You didn't want to fight. And the one kid, he didn't even know why he was fighting.
Right.
And that's kind of the thing. You find yourself in this situation in the middle of the street, somebody's in front of you squaring up with you. What are you going to do? He has to save face. He didn't have a choice. So he had to do what he felt in his mind he had to do. And that's that whole flight or fight response, right? And that's what happens. And so you have one person bringing an irrational, thinking into it, and all of a sudden that gets resolved. How easy was that? It took 4 minutes, and that's all it takes sometimes. And yet, where do those kids? They don't have those resources. Teachers are busy teaching. Guidance counselors are overwhelmed at schools. So you need community members that are able to offer other services in those communities in order to help these kids deal with conflict in a better, more positive way.
Well, Uriah, let's hope that Ibn's actions continue to motivate people to get involved with these kids and keep them on the right path. We appreciate you taking a few minutes. Before we let you go, how can people get in touch with you if they want to take advantage of your services and kind of pick your brain about the whole college recruiting process and get some more information about that?
Oh, I appreciate it. If people want to get in touch with me, the easiest way is to email me at info@flowacademics.com. I'll be sure to reach out to them. Again, I focus on student-athlete development, standardized test prep, and basically the college admissions process. So I look forward to hearing from people. And again, the website will be up this week, so look for that. It's flowacademics.com, and I'll be happy to speak with anybody about that.
Awesome, Uriah. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the time.
Thanks for taking a few minutes, bud. So much, enjoy your weekend.
Take care. You too. Thank you.
That was Uriah McClain. Check him out. Flowacademics.com. Website's going to be launched this week, so keep an eye out for that.